Hi, and welcome to the Reading Russets Book Club. We're going to cover the third segment of Crescent City House of Earth and Blood.
Chapters 42 to 65.
Another 200 pages of Sarah J. Massiverse reading. Let's get right into it.
So some announcements is that we are going to be doing the entire ACOTAR series for the month of May. And they're not too long. They're not 800 pages each. I think the biggest one is Silver Flames, and that one is still only, 600?
Yeah, and there's 5 books, right?
Well, there's 4 books and then the novella, so technically 5. There'll be at least 4 episodes because we'll do the entire series over the course of the month. So the first week of May will be. So, yes, so this episode is going to cover chapters 42 to 65 of Crescent City's House of Earth and Blood. Man, so it goes all the way up to page 600, which really leaves on a cliffhanger.
Massive cliffhanger. Okay, this isn't just like your ordinary cliffhanger. This is like a cliffhanger that flips your entire worldview on its head and leaves you wondering what the hell is going on.
But leading up to that cliffhanger, we'll start at the beginning in chapter 42. So we get to meet Therian Kitos, who is Hunt's friend, and he's also captain of the intelligence for the River Queen. And then we learn that the River Queen is the daughter of Oganus, but that's how you would say, right?
Yeah, I think Oganus is about right.
It sounds oceany. And so the River Queen, is the daughter of Oganus, and she is half mer, half river spirit. Through them, we get introduced to the Blue Court, which is an underwater city pretty much closed off to the rest of the world in Crescent City and Lunathian and Pangaea. I mean, it's just the Blue Court is just under the water. What I don't understand at the time is, so she's called the River Queen. Does she literally only exclusively live, and is the Blue Court only in the river?
Yeah, I think it's
Or is there an ocean?
I think the Blue Court is literally an underwater city of some kind because they talk about how there's a glass submarine that goes down every single day, and I think it was
Once a day.
once a day. They take people from the surface down to the Blue Court, but it's by invite only. Like you can't just willy-nilly say, I'm going down to the Blue Court. Like you have to be invited down there. And based on what they were saying in the book, it seems like people are scared to go down to the Blue Court.
They don't come back.
Yeah, because they don't come back. So
When I think of Lunathian, when I think of Crescent City, like in my mind, and I think of this river, I think of New York City, and then I think of like the nasty Hudson River. And I just imagine, like, I don't know what color the water is, but I just imagine like you have this like these mer people, and there's just like diving into the sewage.
living in
And
the sludge.
well, don't they talk about it? I don't like at some point. This isn't really a spoiler, but Therian at some point talks about the litter of Crescent City in the water. And that's not like a big spoiler or anything, but like that's what I imagine. And
Just
so
like dirty, filthy harbor water.
yeah, like this brown sludge of water. And so I think, man, they're swimming down to the Blue Court. When I think of an underwater city, I think of Atlantis from The Little Mermaid. You know, this beautiful city. That's not what I think of when I think of the Blue Court. I think it's like this dingy underwater ick.
I think they mentioned in some part that the Blue Court has like air bubbles or air pockets or something.
Yes, the Blue Court has like these pods under the water with that are just filled with air. So it's not like they're just I mean, there are like fish and merm people or whatever swimming around, but I just imagine it being dirty. I don't know. That's what I think of when they introduce like the Blue Court because it's called blue, and I just don't imagine it being blue at all.
Filthy river mermaids.
Yeah, like blue in the river? No, not where I'm from. Then we learn what the Oracle told Danica, and that was through love all is possible. I think it's just such a cheesy line. Like when I read that, I was like, that is so cringe. You're going to the fantastic oracle, and they're like, through love, all is possible. Like,
Well, that's why they got it tattooed in another language on their back because it's supposed to be not as cliche in another language.
Right. It's just, I think it's funny. It's so cringy. Like if you get to go to the oracle once in your whole life, and if I went and they were like, through love, all is possible, I'd be like,
That's not very profound.
this is real, like really, this is my future here or whatever. I think I'd be so mad.
At the time, I didn't really draw any significance from it. I thought it was just, like you said, it was just like a cliche phrase. I'm like, well, that's kind of a lame future prophecy to receive from this all-seeing oracle who's given out all these crazy wild prophecies to different people, and hers is just through love all things are possible. Like that just seems goofy. But I didn't grasp the meaning of it until later in this segment.
So after we learn what the Oracle told Danica, Bryce and Hunt, they go to Moonwood, which is where the wolves live, and they're going to talk to Sabine to pretty much figure out what is going on with her. And when they're on their way there, when they get there, they run into, I say her name as Emily, and you say,
Amelie.
but yeah, it doesn't go well.
No, not at all. And they were super hostile towards Bryce and Hunt when they arrived at the gate. They wouldn't let them through to talk to Sabine, and Bryce was insisting on going in. And then all Amelia and her wolves had to say was basically, these super slanderous, nasty things because of her involvement with Danica.
Well, it's more than that though. It's not just her. Like Bryce was considered part of the pack, for years because Connor Holstrom, he had pretty much confessed his love, and wolves, they mate for life. They have mates. They're not like the Fae mates, but
Right.
they have them. And everyone in the wolf pack pretty much assumed that they would be together.
Right.
And that night that Danica died, that they all died, he just sent her a text and was like pretty much confessing all of his feelings to her and like, look, this
Right. And
is
she
what I've
was at the
got.
White Raven doing some dirty
And
things.
she was away hooking up with somebody else. And those texts were all seen by the wolf pack, like his confession and then knowing what she did. And so they feel like she just betrayed them.
Yeah.
Not only that, then she was a suspect in Danica's murder.
And they went after her for months, like publishing all
Yeah.
of her final text messages to them. It went viral. They harassed her. People like across Crescent City hated her for the way she acted around the time of Bryce's death. Danica's death, excuse me.
Yeah, and Danica was so well respected in Crescent City, and then Bryce, have to remember, she's half human,
Right.
so already people don't like her. Nobody knows who she really is. So, I mean, she just got really the bottom of the pit there. Like, it was terrible. But eventually they do get to talk to Sabine, and they find out that she was lying about Danica. Because
Right.
they know she was lying. Because she lies about Danica being at the temple, and they already know that, but she doesn't know that they know that.
And they know because they discovered that the footage was swapped
Mm-hmm.
at the temple.
Yeah, and it makes me think, like, why would Sabine lie? Like, what is she covering? What is she getting? What is she covering up by lying to them, knowing they're investigating her daughter's death, right? If she wasn't involved,
And my thought was at that point, immediate suspect, she's the murderer. I'm bought and sold.
right? Like, it's solidified. Sabine did it. Like, here are the people. Like, because you would think she would want her daughter's killer found,
Right.
unless she's the killer herself.
That's what I would have thought. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So they leave there, and they pretty much have the same thought. They're like, "What are you doing? Why are you lying?" It just brings up more questions. But I think for me and kind of for them mentally, it was okay. You're in on this,
Yeah.
like for sure now towards Sabine.
We also learned that Ethan Holstrom,
Mm.
former Sunball player at CCU,
Oh,
he's now taken on his role as a member of the Wolfpack and went from this nice, friendly kid to now this like super serious, super mean wolf. And he's basically treating Bryce the same way the rest of the other wolves are.
yeah. So after they leave Moonwood, Bryce and Hunt start to get much more flirty with each other. Um,
Definitely some tension there.
there's just like, I feel like in most Sarah J books, there's like a romance or like a little tidbit of it, and we have had none of that at all in this book. Like, this book is pure
Story.
story, and I just think it's so different than the other ones because even in no spoilers, Throne of Glass, the first 5 books, there's no romance at all. There's a little bit, but
Not the focus.
it's not a romance. It's not a romance book. But yeah, so they just are getting more flirty than ever with each other. But then boom, they're attacked by the Chrysalis demon.
Crystallos demon.
Crystallos demon. Okay, Chrysalis.
They attacked in the park.
Yeah, right outside of Moonwood, right?
Yeah, because Bryce was so torn up after the berating she got from the wolves and from Sabine. She just wanted some quiet thought, some time to herself, and she went and was wandering through this park, this garden, whatever it was. And Hunt shows up. He's like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, because he cares. He cares about
He's
her.
caring about her.
And then they kind of have a little moment, and right as they're about to have their little moment, like Nikiska said, the Crystallos demon appears, and then it turns into a big fight.
But it bites Hunt, and it somehow nullifies his powers, but then they're still able to kill it.
Right.
And to me, how could they so easily kill the demon when the entire pack of devils was slaughtered?
Yeah, it doesn't add up that two people, one who doesn't even have any powers, is able to assist Hunt in, killing this demon. But for the most part, even without his powers being nullified by the Crystallis demon, he was still able to render it useless.
Yeah, I found that to be a bit sketchy, in my opinion. So then, okay, now they've got this huge fight. The demon is killed by Bryce and Hunt, of all people. Maybe Hunt could have done it, but Bryce, I don't know. Then who shows up, of all people in all of Crescent City? Micah.
Micah.
Micah shows up, and then he burns the demon.
Yeah, he said, "This cannot get out before the summit. I don't want anyone knowing about this. This is to remain classified. This cannot come out."
And I found that to also be a bit sketchy because, again, Danica's murder was so public. She was so well respected. They've reopened this investigation. At this point, there's quite a few powerful people that know the investigation has been restarted. Here is finally probably your first real lead. You've got the demon here. You could look into it. I mean, there's so many things I feel like you could do. And that his first thought is, now I gotta get rid of it.
Destroy it. Get rid of it. No evidence.
Not even quick, get it out of here, get it to a lab or something. It's just get rid of it immediately right here on the ground.
You have to remember also that Sandriel is in town.
Right. So he's obviously trying to put fate, like, no, my city's amazing. We don't have demons here.
He's basically trying to build the story that Sandriel sees about Crescent City.
Right. Why is he trying to impress her so much? Because, again, I don't understand the hierarchy of it. They're both archangels.
I think it's more to do with a protective measure because he's worried, in my opinion, that Sandriel is going to undermine his governance and that he would get essentially removed from his position.
Because he can't take care of Crescent City.
Exactly.
But once they get all that figured out, Hunt and Bryce, they go home and they're pretty much ready to get it on.
Yeah.
But again, now they're interrupted by who? Sabine.
That's right.
These two just cannot catch a break.
They're on the roof of the apartment.
They're on the roof of Bryce's apartment. And Sabine bursts out of nowhere.
With a gun.
With a gun. She's holding the gun to Bryce. Then Hunt is holding a gun to Sabine. It's very dramatic. And then Sabine reveals that she lied to them to protect Danica because Danica was the one who actually took the horn.
That really throws you off because you think the whole time that Danica is this hero, this good person.
But she still could be, right? Like, maybe there's a reason that she took the horn. But also, at this point, like, do we trust Sabine? How many times has the woman lied now?
She definitely switches the script all the time.
And really, she's only up there. She's only there because she thinks that they think it was her. And she doesn't want to get in trouble.
Right.
But they do think it was her, as do we.
And they accuse her.
Yeah, because, let's be honest, all the signs point to her, right?
Right.
But then at this point, I started to change my tune because I'm like, maybe it's too obvious that it was Sabine, right? I mean, all the signs point to her. If it was her, I feel like just in writing, I was like, it's just too obvious.
Well, like Hunt said, based on her reaction when they accused her, she doesn't hide her emotions well, and she was shocked to be accused.
Right, like she had no idea that she was even on the roster for being a suspect. But also, one of my things was, if she had killed Danica, she would have the sword. Because she has been harping on this sword, like, where's the sword, where's the sword? Was it the Fenrir sword? The sword that Danica carried, that was a symbol to the wolves.
Yeah.
It's missing, and she's searching for it. And I think if, like, Danica never left without it, right? So if she truly had killed Danica, wouldn't she have the sword?
That would make sense.
That's in my mind. But I still think that she's involved somehow, right? Like, okay, you say that you are lying to protect Danica because she took the horn. You were the head of the investigation. We know you switched the footage or whatever. Like you're so sketchy. And okay, Danica took the horn. Well, then what? And you know she took it. What happened then? Right?
Right.
Like she's still clearly involved. I don't think she killed her daughter anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So we don't know what her level of involvement is at this point. But the idea of her being the likely first suspect is lessened by this scene.
yeah, yeah. But you know who has increased in suspicion? Danica. She is sketchy AF right now.
She's not done herself any favors.
Yeah, Danica's not doing herself any favors. She's definitely really sketchy. From the beginning, when we met Philip Briggs, we kind of suspected that maybe she was like a human sympathizer with the rebellion, or I mean, she's just getting sketchier and sketchier. And then we found out that she's like been lying to Bryce, and then she took the horn, and who knows what's going on with her in the pack. Like, there's just a lot that we don't know about Danica, but a lot that's been revealed to me that feels suspicious.
I agree. I think there's a lot of aspects of her life. Like, we know that she worked at Redner Industries, but we don't know what she did at Redner Industries.
Right.
Like, just on the side, like you're just working for this company on the side while you're also maintaining this elite wolf pack.
Like, girl, what are you doing? And not just like some elite wolf pack. She is the most powerful wolf that we got.
Right.
But at this point, I was like, so this whole investigation's going on. Now we've got so many suspicious things, and my mind was like, where's Rune? What's Rune Dannon doing? Because I feel like he was such a big part in the beginning, and then this middle half, he's just where is he? And I get that he is also running the Fey Ox, but I mean, I feel like he just dropped off the face of the planet. And we learn that related to Polias and blah 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 blah. But then it's revealed, right? When knife and sword are reunited, so shall our people be.
Right.
And that is the like prophecy type thing around his sword, the Star Sword.
Right. And there's a twin blade. That's the knife that they're talking about that was lost thousands of years ago. Who knows? It's been talked about but never found. It's a myth at this point.
Right. So what do you think that prophecy means? Like, what do you think that could be?
Well, obviously he has the sword and he found the sword, but again, to me, it feels like it falls in the category of like the horn. It's like
Right.
one of those mythical objects that has just disappeared to history, but people are talking about it. I think it's significant, but I didn't really latch onto that part too much.
Yeah. I just feel like another prophecy has been revealed,
But then you remember Bryce says, "Oh, it's just fade bullshit or whatever."
I just don't believe it. I feel like she never mentioned something without it. And it's a prophecy of some kind, right? And so to me, okay, so Rune got the sword. Maybe the knife is in the cave somewhere, right? Because only people that are starborn
Right.
can even really enter the cave and succeed. And we know that those people barely exist, so maybe just no one's found it.
Here's a thought. Just thought of this now. What if Bryce finds the knife somehow someday?
Well, you have to be a starborn person, though.
Is she or is she not? We don't know for sure.
We don't know anything about Bryce. She's just
She's shady. She's shady too.
she's shady too, but not in the other way. Like, I feel like she's not shady like Danica's shady.
No.
Danica's sketch. Bryce is just kind of not telling everybody everything.
She has a lot of stuff she holds close and doesn't share it unless it's needed to.
Yeah, but she hasn't done anything super that I'm like, what are you doing yet? But in this moment, talking about Rune, because he's a little side character right now, I want to talk about Lahaba.
The little fire sprite.
Lahaba needs a mention every episode because she is just so cute. I can't get enough of her.
She's not happy about their new resident.
Yeah, so Jessica gets this thing called a knock.
A knock.
And it's some kind of water creature. And so there's this huge tank now in the office, and Lahaba's made of fire, so she can't get near it, and it scares her, and she's just so sad. But
And we also learn that Jessica keeps the giant water tank to kind of threaten Lahaba, like, I'll douse your little flame.
essentially that would kill her, though.
Yeah.
Come on, what are we doing? Like, not to my little Lahaba. But Lahaba also says that she's the descendant of a queen, and that she's actually royalty.
But Bryce says her story changes every time.
Right. And who's she telling that to? She's telling that to Hunt.
Yeah, Athy.
Right, Athy. She's so cute. Like, you have freaking little Lahaba, who's like probably like 6 inches tall, and then she's talking to Athy, who is the freaking Umbra Mortis of Crescent City. Right, he's like the most world-renowned assassin killer guy. So it's I just think that dynamic is so cute and funny. Uh but yeah, so anyway, so then later on, Bryce and Hunt casually summon a demon in the middle of her living room. And it's not just any demon, it's a Prince of Hell, or the Prince of the Callum.
And she happens to know him.
Right. And she happens to know him. I'm sorry, but Bryce, how do you happen to know a Prince of Hell? Like,
Well,
excuse me?
we find out. We find out that when she had gotten her prophecy from the oracle, she was so upset afterwards. She was basically sitting in the park outside of the temple.
When she's 13.
Right. When she's 13, this cat comes along when she's like sobbing and being upset. And lo and behold, this cat is the prince from hell that they've just summoned in her living room.
Adis.
Yeah, Adis. Mm-hmm. This prince of hell. Well, you got to remember the oracle has been blinded now and will be blind for a week because of what she saw in Bryce's future. But this prince of hell made a point to say to Bryce, come find me when you make the drop and we'll finish this.
So he asks her, what blinds an oracle? And she says, what kind of cat visits an oracle? First of all, like, again, if I was a person, I just met a talking cat, because I don't think the shifters can speak in their shifted form.
No.
But also, a big question I had, how can they summon it? Okay, I knew that they used the black salt, but I thought that hell was sealed off, like, through ancient magic.
No, so the obsidian salt, right?
Does that blur the...
I think it has the same effect in a way as the horn. I think it allows some opening into the rift or whatever you want to call it. But whatever they summon is contained within that obsidian salt.
Right, in the circle of the salt. But so he tells her, so Adis, the prince of the chasm, he tells her to rerun tests that the Fae have. And then he also tells her again that she needs to make the drop.
Right, because she was asking, who is summoning this demon? What part do you play in this? And he's like, we don't care. We don't meddle in your world.
Right.
We've got our own things going on.
We got our own problems. But he says that the oracle didn't see, but he did. What did he see?
I don't know.
That the oracle didn't, right? Because the oracle went blind, but he saw. And that line, I think, really stuck with me. Because, okay, the Prince of Hell is watching you. What is he doing there? What did he see in Bryce, of all people?
Maybe it's a precursor to something else.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, what could it be, you know? And in that moment, though, so, and this is all in the living room now, not back then. She says to him, and now this is in front of Hunt, she says to Adis that he will kill me if he knows. The assumption then is the Autumn King, right? Will kill her. Right. Because you and I talked about, you know, will the Autumn King kill her if he knows that she will be more powerful than him? That was my prediction, because Adis tells her, make the drop. Well, he'll kill me if he knows. I took that as the Autumn King will kill me if he knows I'm going to be more powerful than him. Because we know that Rune is not more powerful than the Autumn King. And he always, like, the Autumn King's always throwing that around, like, you're like a weak fae or whatever.
Wouldn't that be something if she makes the drop and becomes insanely powerful after having no powers at all?
And being half human.
Right.
Like, she's not even a full fae.
Do you think she would be full fae after she made the drop?
No, I don't think that.
Okay, moving on.
So after they casually have a Prince of Hell in the living room, Bryce goes to see the Autumn King and finds out that he never even ran any tests for the murder of Danica, and that he was also somehow involved in the investigation. I think all the leaders were involved because it was such a high-profile crime. You know, oh, they can kill the leader of this ox. His son is the leader of the other ox, so they just kind of... He was involved a little bit, but he said that the tests were really only for Fae matters.
Fae technology.
Fae technology, which is apparently so much more advanced than everyone else, but they keep it to themselves. And it just makes me wonder, why? For one, why are you keeping it to yourself, and what are you doing with it?
Well, that makes me also think, too, about how the Autumn King was wanting to tinker with experiments about the planets. Maybe the Fae are more advanced in terms of their technological capabilities, even though that their power has waned so much over the years.
Because, I mean, we don't really know. Like, we obviously know this is a technologically advanced society, but that they have weak magic, it seems. You know, so maybe technology is the more important factor in this story.
Not cleaning spells?
The cleaning... I wish I had a magic... Oh, just use a cleaning spell. I wish I could have that. But I just thought that was really interesting. Like, could there be something there? Like, if they did use this technology to run these tests, would they find something? And why didn't like Sabine or anyone push more for the test, knowing that they had it? But what I'm wondering is like, does Sabine know that the Fae have this technology? Because I feel like they would have pushed harder for those kind of things had they known.
I'm gonna guess no at this point because
So
Sabine is still sketchy. So
yeah. And then in a more intimate moment, I guess you would say, between Bryce and Hunt, she reveals that she killed the house. Like, 'cause early on, she says, "Well, I've killed before,"
right.
and we finally learn the story of what that was, and that was that when her and Danica were younger, they were they were following these like illegal animal smugglers, and they ended up stumbling upon the whole thing, and they were going to try and save all these animals. It went bad. They were being chased. Danica gets shot, and then Bryce ends up
Killing them.
killing
Yeah.
some of them, because that brings back Danica, right? So now here we have Danica. She's out fighting to save animals, and I just imagine like little bunnies or something, right? You have Danica out on the streets saving little animals with Bryce, of all people. Like, what are you doing? But they're young and dumb, right? They're young and dumb. They're like teenagers,
And Bryce is making the argument that Danica cared for things that, her mother thinks that she didn't care for.
right?
Like she cared about people and their circumstances and things like that.
I think it added another layer to Danica, and it just makes me wonder, okay, Danica, so now you're so caring, right? You're out here saving animals, which of course everybody would want to do. We don't want to be selling illegal animals, but you're risking you and your best friend's life. You should go stop this. You get shot, then Bryce becomes a killer. Now fast forward to now. Now you're being suspected of a human sympathizer. We know you've already let them go a few times. Now you've stolen this horn, like your mom's lying for you. You're dead. Like, she's dead this whole time, you know? So Adis visits her again in cat form. And again, he pretty much prompts her, like, do the drop. And what is he going to get from that? That's what I wonder. Why is this Prince of Hell so determined to have this random half human girl make the drop?
Right, what's his motivation?
What could a Prince of Hell, who's been following her pretty much since she was 13 years old, right? He was at the temple, surely watching her. Why?
Suspicious.
This whole book is suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. So then Hunt and Bryce have another intimate moment. He was called away for a kill from Micah, and he comes home because remember, him and Bryce are living together, and he's pretty much mute.
Like a shell of a person.
Right. He's just devastated, right? And I think that that shows the more caring side of Bryce, because this whole time she's kind of putting up like a really tough exterior,
She was messaging him the whole time. Where are you? Are you okay?
right? Like, she's concerned.
Yeah.
But he comes home, and instead of just kind of leaving him to be, like, she showers with him, but not in like a sexual way. Like, it's very intimate, and she's taking care of him. Like, he's clearly gone through something. To me, that shows not only the caring side of Bryce, but it shows the vulnerability of Hunt.
Yeah.
Yes, he's the Umber Mortis, but this is doing something to him, right? Like, in the rebellion, he was killing for a cause. People that were attacking him, that were killing other people, like, that was war.
Right.
He is now killing anybody. I mean, and we don't know the people that he's killing, but
And Micah made him use knives this time.
which is much more personal.
Yeah.
You're feeling that kill, you know? I just think it's nice to see, right? Like, yes, he's the great Umber Mortis and he's out here killing, but it's not by choice. And it does affect him. And clearly this one, whatever this kill was really, really terrible for him.
Yeah. I agree. I think it definitely shows the vulnerability and then like you said, the empathy and care of Bryce as well.
Yeah, I just really liked that moment because this whole time it's been go, go, go. Everyone's this strong, powerful person. Bryce, yes, we've seen some of her emotion come through, but at the same time, she's like put up this wall. And so I think in this moment, it was just nice to see. But then we also learned, so then after that night, they've had this more intimate moment. I think it's also made them grow closer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There was no dialogue between them in this moment, but
It shows that they're progressing.
I think as individuals and also as whatever
Whatever's
that
going to be
relationship
with them,
is.
yeah.
So after that, though, the Fae test was done on Danica's stuff, thanks to Rune, pretty much, and it was revealed that there were trace amounts of the drug synth.
Right.
And that's really suspicious because synth is this crazy concoction of a drug, an illegal street drug, essentially.
Yeah.
That it's not like a party drug or anything. It is
Synthetic magic.
yeah, yeah, and that's why it's called synth.
And we also learned how uh, Fury had told Bryce back when she was going to the White Raven the night of Danica's death, someone was trying to sell synth.
Yeah.
She was like, stay away from that.
Right. And of course, Fury bugs me so much. Like, you can't see, but I rolled my eyes. Like, she bugs me so much. She clearly knows so much information, and yet Homegirl is just absent.
Aloof.
Like, I feel like I don't know. She bugs me. But yeah, finding the drugs on her clothes, to me, was she using them? Is she a drug user? We know they like to party, but it's not really a party drug, but any drug could become something.
Right.
So it just made me wonder, all right, Danica, here's another thing.
That makes you look sketchy.
Now you've got drugs. Not only just like, and again, it's not just like some party drug. Like, this is a major drug.
Yeah.
So they learn that adds some more questions. And then Hunt, now he's had that intimate moment with Bryce. He's obviously becoming more open to her, and he reveals that he doesn't know who his father is, and that his mother was a low angel. And that made me really question, again, the hierarchy of things, because I thought all the angels were somebody.
Right, she was like a housemaid.
Right, she was like a nobody, and then
barely getting by.
Right.
And, Hunt was off at the war, saving up money to send back home to his mother.
Yeah.
And they thought that she was rich or something, and she was attacked by thieves.
And killed, and nobody cared. It was literally just whatever. But to me, like, I just thought, at least in Crescent City, angels are like a big deal. But I guess everywhere else, they're not. I don't know. But I just thought that was interesting. But that brings up probably one of the biggest questions. Who is Hunt's father? Because Hunt has lightning. At this point, he's the only being that we know that has the power.
If you think about Norse mythology impacts in these stories, what character do we know in Norse mythology that is the only character with lightning?
Thor.
Thor.
What, doesn't Odin?
No.
Thor is the god of thunder.
So I'd be curious to see if that plays a role later. I don't know. Maybe his father's like some lightning god. Maybe you learn about it. I don't know. Just a guess. Shot in the dark. You're making a face at me, so you know something.
I'm just making a face because you're having a prediction that never crossed my mind. Like, I didn't have a thought as to who it could be, or like.
I didn't think about it until just now.
Oh yeah, like I literally just like, well, who could his dad be? But I didn't put any Norse mythology behind it or anything, because again, Hunt's real name is Orion, and we talked about that in the last episode, that Orion was a god of the hunt in Greek mythology.
Lots of mythological influence.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how or if that storyline develops. But also, I'd like to meet more angels, I think, because the ones we've met are either just a slave or really, really important. It just makes me think, like, are there just everyday angels out there that aren't slave? Like, I don't know. So then so now Bryce and Hunt are really into each other.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of still denying it to themselves, but they keep having these moments. And we haven't talked about it yet, but Bryce has a very, very severe injury from the night of Danica's murder.
On her thigh.
On her thigh. And because of it, she limps
a
lot of the time. And, she's in pain almost constantly, and it's getting worse and worse. And
she won't address it no matter what.
She totally ignores it. But then she reveals to Hunt that it's because she keeps the pain to remind her of Danica, and that what essentially she failed to do and save her friend.
And Hunt cannot convince her to go and see a med witch.
Right. This is pretty much his personal mission, is to get her leg fixed, because she's in so much pain, she can barely walk, and it's the venom of the Crystallis demon.
Right. Which shouldn't be in anyone's body, especially if it can negate magic. Who knows what it can do to a human? Right. Because as we learned, a few chapters before, it nullified Hunt's lightning, and now it's in Bryce's body. It's been there for 2 or more years, and it's not good. It's not good. But no. So they're having this moment. She reveals that she keeps it to remember Danica. She also reveals that about her mom and the story, pretty much her story. How they escaped. Yeah. And that's when we learned that Randall, who was also dealing with PTSD from his battlefield experiences,
Yeah, he was
was
also in the
going to make
temple,
vows to Solus. And
become an acolyte.
yeah, during that point, he happens to go to the temple where Bryce and her mother are at, and he is asked to protect them on their journey to escape.
Yeah, he was assigned as an escort to them, and he's escorting them. The pursuers catch up. Randall does what Randall does and kills them all.
Right. And
And
that's been hush hush for years.
yeah, because to kill anyone outside of war as just a person,
Right. But to kill Faye as a human,
but to kill not just Faye, but to kill Faye under a direct order of the Autumn King was a big, big deal.
mm-hmm.
But eventually they get out of there, and then the House of Earth and Blood, whoever's in charge of that, deemed that Bryce's mom was a vessel for Sathona, and that Randall was a vessel for Solus. And so that kind of, I thought, answered my earlier question of why are Bryce's parents essentially like they're different than other humans, right? We know that the humans are all lowers and are not lowers, but that they are not good. And they just seem to be living a very peaceful, normal human life. And I think that kind of answered it because they are under the direct protection. They've been assigned a role in the house. They're not just people.
Right.
That's what I got out of that story.
And then we also learned that Bryce's mom has been wanting to see her for weeks and weeks and weeks, months and years. And finally, they settle on a video call. And,
But it wasn't, Bryce's mom didn't just want to see her.
right, she wanted to know what the scoop was
She wanted to
on
meet
her roommate.
Mr. Affy. She wanted to meet Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is world famous or Pandura famous or whatever. He's super famous and he's just casually living with their crazy daughter. And I think her mom is such a realistic mom.
Yeah.
She's like, what are you doing with this man in your home?
Not just any man,
Not
an
just any
assassin,
man. Like,
a powerful Vanir assassin.
but doesn't her mom like make a joke? She's like, I've seen him on TV or whatever. Like, he's not ugly.
Yeah.
She's just like, you've got this hot ass man living in your house and you're telling me that you're just casually living together. Like it's just I just think it's funny.
And then Randall and Hunt are like, "Oh, I saw you out in when you were in the battalion."
Right. Like I don't know.
Reading his newspaper, halfway paying attention to the conversation.
Right, like Randall, we know you're paying attention. What are you doing? But Hunt was really nervous.
He was.
He was so nervous to meet her parents.
But he played it well. He was really nice to her mother and father, I think. But yeah, Bryce's mom did give, Bryce a little fair warning about Hunt. She's like, I don't know about these powerful angel people, especially Hunt.
Right. Because I mean, and it's totally valid because again, Bryce is half human and the world is not kind to people like that.
No.
And yeah, he's living there. Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy, but let us not forget that he led a rebellion against their leadership. He is a slave. Why would he not put himself first?
Mm-hmm.
So fair warning from her mom. So after that cute little meeting, then they meet with Therian again, who at this point reveals that Danica was actually dealing synth the day before she died. So that answers why Danica had friggin' synth on her clothes. But to me, Therian, homeboy, why didn't you tell them Danica was dealing synth when they came to you the first time?
It seems like nobody in this world tells you anything unless you ask specifically.
Nobody tells the truth. Like, I just can't.
Everyone's keeping secrets.
And it's not like he could say, well, I didn't know. Like, you knew. You're the head of intelligence for that whole court.
Right.
You knew. You saw her doing it. You knew they were investigating, and you thought you didn't have a single thought and think, they should probably know that she was dealing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe this was like, I don't want to say like a cartel hit, but essentially that, right? She's dealing drugs, the drug trade. That's dangerous. Maybe that was all it was. But he said nothing. And then he's like, hey, did you guys happen to know that she was a drug dealer? No, they didn't happen to know that, Therian.
That would have been useful to know.
But from that, so now we know that Synth was probably a major player.
We have to remember that Bryce was doing research on Synth on her own because she thought there was more to the story regarding Danica's death and Synth and the drugs, while meanwhile Hunt is like, let's focus on the horn, let's not get involved with all this drug business.
Yeah, he pretty much just wants her to stay away from it. And like I took that as because he's already responsible for this girl. They've already got so much crap going on. do we really need to be getting involved in the illegal drug trade?
Right.
He's like, he's pretty much like, I'll do it. You stop what you're doing because she's been doing so many random things. Like,
She's doing a lot.
she's doing a lot and she's putting herself in danger. And now he's just met her parents and he's like, look, girlfriend, like, you gotta take a step back. So we learn that what synth actually is. It is a drug and it gives humans strength and abilities that are more powerful than the Vanir. What would be the purpose of that?
That sounds like a weapon.
You have a human rebellion happening right now.
What better ingredient could they use on the battlefield than loads and loads of doses of this synth to give to
That
their
makes
human,
them more powerful than their enemy.
yeah, to give to their human army?
It makes me come back to Danica, who was then suspected of being what?
A human sympathizer.
And now here she is dealing drugs that help
Humans.
I don't know, a little suspicious to me. So we learn this, then we finally hear from who? Fury.
Right, just on a whim.
She comes out of nowhere and she's like, hey, I actually know about that drug. Stay away from it. That's all I gotta say. After all this time.
Right. Bryce just happened to call her and she picks up this time. She says, I'm busy.
Yeah. I'm just so busy.
Haven't talked in years.
I feel like I could talk on a tangent for hours about Fury. Who is she? What is she doing? I think she's sketchy as crap. Absolutely useless, but probably could be of great help.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she says she knows classified information. I'm sure she has some tidbits that, aren't common knowledge.
And again, it just makes me think, okay, you got Bryce the job with Jasiba. I just can't let that go. I can't let that go. I don't know. So we learn all this stuff about synth. Fury's popped up out of nowhere. Then finally, Bryce chooses to get her leg healed.
Mm-hmm.
But she only does that because the suspicious med witch, who we still don't have a name for, just the one that's been bebopping around doing whatever. Again, more sketchy stuff. She's trying to make a synth antidote.
But we also learn that Bryce is choosing to get her leg healed, not only because she wants to help out, but because Hunt revealed during the telephone call with her parents that there was a problem with her leg, and they flipped out about it.
Yeah, he did a little dirty on her there, but it's all fine because now she's gonna get her leg healed. But it is an extremely painful process because the medwitch has to extract the venom from her leg, and there's really nothing you can do for it. But to me, in the moment, what does Hunt do? He gives her a little kiss, and that's really the first sign of. Well, it's not the first sign of physical attraction. So they've been intimate before in a sense, but I just felt this was a much more intimate moment. Right? She's in pain. This is something that she has struggled with, even getting the thought of getting fixed. And then he just gives her a little kiss, like I'm here.
Didn't he also buy her a white opal when they were trying to search who was selling drugs? Bought her a white rock.
Oh, when no, didn't he buy that when they were looking for salt? No.
No, it was when they were looking for someone who was
But
selling
the
synth.
meaning of it though, right? It's like
It means joy.
because she was like hella depressed.
Yeah.
Happy. But I just thought that was cute. So finally she gets her leg healed. Amazing, amazing. Then Danica's birthday comes, and every year on Danica's birthday, her and Danica would go and get croissants from this special place or this like pastry. So Bryce still has this tradition of getting the pastry from this shop or whatever. So she goes to get it, and finally she goes to sit down. She's gonna celebrate Danica's birthday. She opens the box. She opens the box, and it says
Trash. Which means obviously the wolves that are still alive wanted to ruin the one special thing left that she had with Danica.
Well, yeah, like they found out about it, obviously, and they're just bullying her or something. And
Bryce was even saying how she was the only one who ever remembers her birthday. So you're telling me the wolves remembered it was her birthday.
And still chose to ignore it.
Instead of honoring, Danica's death and her time in that world, they used it as a moment to get a dig at Bryce.
And so she's obviously very upset about this, but she's been bullied by the wolves now essentially for years. So she's just kind of like, well, but she tells Hunt what happened. Well, he finds her, right? Sitting there.
Yeah, she was sitting by the river.
They're sitting there together, and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, nothing, nothing. And then he opens it and he sees it. And he pretty much knows right away that it was Emily, the wolf, because she's a little annoying biddy.
Mm-hmm. And he makes a big old scene, flies over to where she's currently at, using intel from Isaiah, storms into this bar, and basically grabs her by the neck and pins her to the wall and is like, don't go anywhere near this again, or else don't contact her, don't do anything. And it was very public. Everyone had their phones out.
Yeah.
They were making calls to the 33rd. It was a big scene, and he knew he was going to have consequences for it.
But he didn't care.
He didn't care.
Because he was like, I'm defending my friend Bryce, who really doesn't have anybody at this point. And again, they've just been growing in this relationship that they've got. But then the consequences come. And both Hunt and Bryce are summoned by Micah, only to find out that it was Sabine who had made an official complaint against Hunt on behalf of Emily, whatever you say. I say Emily. And so in the moment right there, and pretty much in Mike, I think it's in Micah's office, Hunt is sentenced to the living death. And when I read that, I was like, well, he's about to die.
Because technically he's a slave. He could have been just killed and sentenced to death like normal.
Yeah.
But Micah was like, we're a civilized place. We're not going to kill you. We're just gonna give you a living death.
I mean, AKA, we can't have the Umbra Mortis, head of pretty much their detective department, killed ahead of this summit, and while Sandra was, I mean, it would just be too much. But Sabine is like, no, he's gotta go. He's gotta die. And in this moment, right, so I don't think Sabine has killed Danica, but in this moment, I was like, all right, Sabine, I hate you so much. You gotta go.
Yeah, she's a nasty little.
Like, your daughter, it's not her daughter, but like her second, like, that girl's annoying. She's a bully, but like,
she's like, this has gone too far.
Like, she understood, you know, I mean, he was defending his friend. And
yeah.
That was it. And Sabine's like, he's gotta go. He's gotta die.
Said, this is too far.
Right. But it was already decided, and that was going to be the sentence. And so they cut his wings off. And that's a living death for an angel because it's so painful. The wings do grow back. But I mean, the pain.
And they're used as a form of shaming their enemies and stuff. Like I think it was the Asteri have the wings of the
rebels.
Yeah, of the rebels into the wall.
Sick. What did you think of Sabine though in this moment?
Oh, she was complete trash.
Do you think the punishment was fair?
I think he got away light. I think he got away lucky because he's a slave. I think he's lucky to be alive, and I think he's also lucky that they didn't do anything to Bryce there in that moment as well.
I think so too. I mean, do I think it was fair that they cut his wings off? No, but I think in the moment, really, because he attacked a second in the wolves. Like, that is a punishment of death.
And Rune Dannon even says that he got off light.
He's like, pretty much, because Bryce is so distraught, but he's pretty much like, well, you just need to accept that he should be dead. And if they had killed him, literally nobody would have even blinked an eye. They'd be like, well, there goes another slave. And Bryce is only emotional because they've developed this relationship. Literally nobody else cares. It's just a slave. Like,
but she's basically made a promise that she's going to kill Sabine.
Yeah. She's like, if I ever see you again, like, you're dead. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty terrible, but I think in the moment and given what he did, and I mean, he knew it. He was like, it's fine. Like, this is, I took the action and I will accept the consequence for it.
Yep.
What do you think of Micah though in the moment, like making that the?
I think it was a mercy. I think he showed mercy, but he still had to fulfill the law.
But do you think that says anything about his character, right? Because we've seen him be kind of petty in the past, right?
But he also made a deal with Hunt that he would let him go on 10 kills instead of 2,000.
Only if he solves the case.
Right. But it does show that I think he has like some kind of empathy, even if it's like a super cold empathy.
Yeah, because I mean he's been petty, right? Like he's made Hunt go kill when Bryce rejected him, or like, I don't know if I necessarily saw this as like an empathy, like, but then at the same time it's like, well, maybe he does kind of care for Hunt.
Right.
After all this time and Hunt's doing it, right? It might be hard to not acknowledge at least that relationship, and not just pure political moves.
He's given Hunt a lot of chances.
And I mean, at this point, though, this is kind of as far as it can go before death.
Yeah.
It's called the living death, right? So pretty much if Hunt messes up after this, like,
he's going to get executed.
He's done. And there's really nothing else that anybody could do for him. Because, again, he's just a slave to Micah, and it's 100% his call. And he could kill him really at any time.
Yeah.
But he keeps him around. So I just thought that whole interaction was interesting. And it kind of added a little bit of development to Micah, who's not really a character that we know too much about. But shortly after this, it is revealed that Bryce literally gave her eternal soul for Danica because she wasn't sure if Danica was going to make it.
Right.
To me, in that moment, I was like, WTF? Like,
She literally made a deal with the Under King.
I mean, you literally gave up your eternal soul.
Yeah.
You are half human. You are 23 years oldish. Like, you haven't made the drop yet. You want to do that when you're 27. But being half human, you're probably not gonna have like this super eternal life.
No.
But you have given up your eternal soul. And what gets me is that you're judged then. Your soul is judged. And if you make it, then you're welcomed with the Under King. And if you don't make it, like you pretty much had a bad soul.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly Bryce thought that Danica was not good enough. So you're telling me that all this time that your best friend in the whole wide world, who you are like defending to the death right now, you didn't think she was gonna make it.
Right, she was concerned.
And that was before all of these like lies and secrets have come out. Like that was before all this. You in that moment you still thought she was kind of eh. And so you gave up your eternal soul for her. And now, so to me, it's right. So now it's like after all of this, now Danica's a drug dealer. She stole the horn. She's been keeping crazy secrets. Like if that was me, I would be so regretful, I think. Like my best friend that I gave up my eternal soul for made it.
Definitely a betrayal.
But was lying to me the whole time. Like, was anything true?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely shows the perspective that Bryce had on their friendship. Super trusting and caring and believing in Danica, but there was also some hint of not.
There's a seed of distrust though.
Yeah.
Because she didn't think that Danica's going to make it on her own.
Right.
Would you have done it?
No.
Me neither.
I'm not giving up my eternal soul. Get out of here.
I just feel like that says a lot without saying anything at all.
It's definitely it was definitely an important thing to note.
Like now what? Like you've damned yourself eternally.
Yeah.
Like
She the Under King said she has no place in any of the afterlives.
you have nothing. Like so at this like we know that Bryce was really depressed before, so it's like what does she have to live for? She has literally given up her eternal soul. All she has is this human life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And so she's pretty much dedicating it to what? Solving this murder, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought that was shocking. At this point, I just cannot stand Danica. I think she is just now a liar. She has betrayed her best friend. She's been keeping all these secrets, and it's seemingly going nowhere. So then Bryce is now trying to look more into synth and what Danica was doing at Reading Industries, blah, blah, blah. She ends up logging into Danica's account for Reading Industries, which is on her computer. And then in that account...
But with what? She logs in with the password. The password is through love, all things are possible.
Bryce logs into Reading's account with love through whatever. It's all possible. Whatever that stupid thing is. Bryce puts in the password through love all is possible. That gets her into the Reading Industries account. In there, she finds a file labeled Bryce. And then in that file is a photo of Danica and Bryce from a trip that they had taken together. And Danica's wearing a jacket that says through love all is possible. Bryce now has that jacket.
And it's a clue.
It's a clue to what?
It's a clue to look in the jacket. She runs over, grabs the jacket, is feeling around in it, and feels a rectangular metal piece.
A flash drive in the L of the jacket. This is literally a breakthrough because there's been absolutely nothing, really. So, of course, she plugs in right away. What does she find on it? It is videos of human experiments of synth.
Done by Reading Industries.
And the videos, it's a human girl. Bryce is watching her take the synth, and then they have slaves come in, the Vanner slaves come in. The girl is more powerful and just kills round after round after round. She kills so many of these people. And then when it's over, she kills herself. Yeah. She tears herself inside out.
Uh-huh. So we learned that when this human was taking synth in these test trials, by the time she was done killing the person, it turned them into a red pile of pulp, which is the same way they found Danica and the Wolfpack's remains.
Which implies that the person who killed them
was on synth.
But we've only seen it as a human, which would imply then that it was a human who killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Then that human also probably killed themselves, and we might not even know who it is or ever find out if it was just some random human.
Right.
But Bryce is trying to put this together.
Also, Bryce is like, well, if Danica left one clue, she's probably going to leave more clues. So she tries to go back to her old apartment to find more clues, but the apartment was burning to the ground and everyone is screaming and crying. Well, she thinks that it's possible she tipped off Redner Industries when she was trying to crack Danica's account and finally logged in.
Oh, okay, before that happens, Hunt is there as well. They have a pretty serious hookup, though.
They do.
And it goes farther than anything else has ever gone.
Yeah, it goes so far that his wound on his wings reopens.
Yeah.
And they call a midwitch, and he asks the midwitch if he can have sex, and she says no.
And she says no. But yeah, so they have to stop. And it's like every time I feel like they make a little progress in whatever this relationship is going to be, someone or something is interrupting them. And I feel really bad for them. What do you think of that relationship?
I think they both want to be together, and they made it clear, I think, after his wings were cut off, that they were going to try and find a way for that to happen for them.
Yeah. Because again, as we remember, Hunt was specifically told don't get into a relationship with her. And so I'm concerned at this point that if anything was to actually progress, that it would make them both really vulnerable. Because really, again, we've just said that he can't step out of line again.
But Micah also said when they were leaving, go back to her house, go back to the barracks. I don't care. So I don't think he really cares what happens so long as he saves face in front of the summit.
Right. And so again, is that Micah showing empathy or is he just too busy or what? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
After that, when they're stopped, then Bryce is like, let me go back to my old house, my old apartment. And that's when she discovers that it's burning down. So Bryce sees that her apartment is burning to the ground. My first question was, who lit the fire? Was it an accident? Because it's an apartment building, right? So, of course, it could have been some other resident that had an accidental fire. But let's be honest, that's probably not the case.
No.
But, okay, so if someone lit this apartment on fire as she's on her way there, to me, they're watching her.
Yeah.
And they know that she's onto it. So clearly there's someone watching her. They've been following her on this case. They somehow realize that she's on her way to her old house where there's obviously evidence that this person knows about, and so they burn the building down.
Mm-hmm.
Who could that be?
I have no idea. But then she actively, as she's walking away from the apartment, gets a call from the merman, and he says there's a synth deal going down on the river.
Right now. He says there's a synth deal going on right now. So she's like, well, guess I'll come meet you because my evening has literally gone up in flames. In true Bryce fashion, it's like, you know what? Let me go and do this sketchy thing and go to this illegal drug deal with Hutharian, who is...
We don't know a lot about him.
I don't know about Tharian.
And she didn't tell Hunt and she didn't tell Room because they wouldn't be down
because
about it.
Because they would be like, no, you're not. You're not going to some illegal backstreet drug deal with Tharian. Like, you're not doing that.
So she meets Tharian at the docks, and he pulls up on a reconnaissance like jet ski.
Yeah, it's like a jet ski. That's what, at least what I am.
It's like a stealthy one. It's like a stealthy one, and they basically sneak up on these people doing the drug deal. Bryce is on the back of the jet ski. As they're getting closer, they can kind of hear the voices and make out the figures.
And surprise, surprise, but really no surprise, the Viper Queen's involved.
Right.
We know that she's sketchy. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. But the buyer was the biggest surprise of all, because who is it, Nicholas Schmicholas?
It's Hunt. What a freaking plot twist is that?
Yeah, so dun dun dun, Hunt is the buyer of the synth from the Viper Queen.
Didn't Hunt just get his wings cut off? Isn't he back at home, laying in a bed?
But you know what my first thought was? That Hunt lit the fire at Bryce's apartment. That was my first thought.
What would be his motive to hide all this from Bryce all along? Why would he be buying synth? This doesn't make any sense.
To me, there's so many things unfolding in this moment. Like, Bryce has come from a fire of her old apartment that may or may not have had evidence from the synth stuff. Hunt was the only person who knew that she knew that. And he had the inside knowledge of Bryce.
Wait, I have an idea. Maybe he burned her apartment down to prevent her finding more out about Danica that would hurt her. Like,
You think he burned her apartment down for being nice? To save her from Danica's lies?
Yeah, like from Danica's lies.
Because he cares so much about Bryce.
Right, and maybe he's buying the synth to help further the investigation.
The investigation of what? Danica's murder?
Yeah.
Then why wouldn't he bring Bryce?
Because he fears for her safety.
So he burned her house down.
Her old house.
He has no wings. Like,
Right, that doesn't make any sense.
How'd he get there?
He shouldn't even be able to move. And how would he have known that Bryce was going to go to the apartment?
My first thought, Bryce's mom saying, watch out for him. He's going to do what he's going to do. Right? He's got this insider knowledge. He's learning so much about whatever. Okay. They watch the video. Then he's into whatever. She leaves. She's like, I'm going to go to my own house. Okay. Well, he would literally, unless there's a third party that we do not know that's watching her, he would be the only other person to know this plan, this information. So my thought is he somehow rushes over there, I don't know, burns her house down because he's clearly involved, right? So then she sees him. His natural thought was probably like, okay, well, there's a fire. Like in my mind, like there's a fire, she'll go home. Maybe he'd be home by then, maybe he wouldn't, because he could just be like, I got a call, I gotta go. But she finds him on this boat, right? She sees him buying the synth. But then it makes me think, well, Danica was dealing synth. Did Hunt know Danica?
Did Hunt kill Danica?
Did Hunt kill Danica?
It did say that Danica was begging for her life. And who's
known for making people beg for their life?
The Umbra Mortis. Wow.
So then my next question was, well, who would Danica have been dealing to? Well, the humans, because now Danica makes sense that she would be a human sympathizer. And maybe Philip Briggs, way back when he was causing a commotion, maybe Danica let him go because she was like, look, you need to stop. They're going to bring attention to me, and then I can't help you anymore.
Oh, that makes sense.
In my mind. And then I thought, okay, so then I'm putting all these pieces together in my head. Okay, Danica's dealing synth. The Viper Queen's the supplier. Danica's dealing to who? The humans. She tells Philip Briggs, hey, I can't do this. Like, then he gets caught, whatever, okay? But she's the lead investigator. But also, does Sabine know that Danica's dealing synth? Because, again, way early on, remember you were talking about how maybe Sabine and Sandriel were working together.
Right.
In some form. So maybe Sabine was new or helping Danica deal synth to aid that rebellion.
Oh.
And she's trying to cover it up because because the operation is clearly still going on.
Yeah. And they're trying to create discord.
And they're trying to like stir stuff up. And Micah maybe feels that, right? Maybe he sees that he is the governor. He probably knows more than other people, more than we do at this point. So maybe that's why he's like more lenient with Hunt. He's like, look, I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
I got stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right? In my mind, that's what it is. But then what the hell is Hunt doing?
I have no idea. And I wanted to keep reading before the podcast, and I was like, I can't. I gotta bring this cliffhanger energy to the podcast. I can't know what happens. I don't know what happens. But I can guarantee you I'm gonna be reading this as soon as we're done recording today.
What do you think Hunt is doing there? Obviously he's the buyer.
I think he has an involvement that he's been keeping from Bryce. I think that's going to ruin their relationship.
Do you think he's been using Bryce?
Possibly, but like I feel like there's a lot of genuine feelings there as well. Well, we have to remember as well that Micah was the one who wanted Bryce as a part of the investigation to begin with. So if Hunt was going to be used to use her for this investigation, it would be his objective to get close to her, and then he catches feelings for real. So now he's involved. And now he's got to, one, still carry out his sketchy mission where he has to use Bryce, but he's also catching feelings at the same time.
And what does Micah know about it? Would he tell Hunt to get close to her? Or, like, there's so many questions.
I am flabbergasted. I have no idea.
My prediction at this point was Hunt killed Danica.
I could see that. I could see that.
And maybe that Micah suspects that.
And he wanted to root out.
He was like, all right, Hunt, you're going to work with this girl whose friend you killed. And at some point, the investigation can't go any further, right?
Right.
Or, like, and then it would be revealed that Hunt was the killer.
But he wouldn't need proof to...
He wouldn't need proof to kill Hunt, but closing one of the biggest cases would be a big deal for him before the summit. Right. He'd be like, look, I solved the Wolves murder.
Yeah.
That would be a big deal. That would give him a lot of clout.
Yeah, it's wild. I just need to keep reading. I don't know what happens, but I need to know what happens.
That will be the next episode. Will be the conclusion of Crescent City House of Earth and Blood, which is book 1 of the Crescent City trilogy. Maybe there will be a 4th book, but trilogy at the moment. Well, Hope everyone enjoys the last 200 pages.
Thank you for joining us on this installment of the Reading Russets Book Club with your two spuds, Nicholas and Nikiska.
Yeah, but you're wrong, but that's fine. What's so fascinating?
That's pretty fascinating.
I thought you were really gonna say something.
I was going somewhere and then the train departed. I don't know what happened there, but